Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's quite controversial and often misunderstood. We're going to discuss why, in some cases, married women can be seen as the easiest prey in certain situations. And we're going to approach this through the lens of Stoicism, but before you jump to conclusions, I want to assure you that this isn't about shaming anyone. It's about understanding human nature, relationships, and how we can navigate them with wisdom, responsibility, and respect. Now, Stoicism is a school of philosophy that has been around for thousands of years, and at its core, it teaches us how to live virtuous lives by focusing on what's within our control and accepting what's not. It teaches us to practice self-control, to avoid being swayed by external events or emotions, and to understand the deeper nature of human interactions. So how does this relate to our topic today? First, let's talk about the nature of attraction and why some people, especially married women, might find themselves more susceptible to temptation or manipulation. Attraction, in the human sense, is a complex mix of biology, psychology, and emotional needs. Human beings are social creatures, and often, we find ourselves seeking validation, attention, or emotional connection outside of our primary relationships. This is a part of human nature that no one is immune to. It's easy to assume that someone who's in a committed relationship, especially marriage, is impervious to these desires, but that's simply not the case. In many instances, married women can become targets because they may be feeling neglected, misunderstood, or underappreciated in their marriages. The external world, with all its distractions and temptations, provides an opportunity for those feelings to manifest in ways that aren't always in alignment with their own values or commitments. That's where the concept of easier prey comes in. It's not about being weak or inferior, but rather, about being vulnerable at certain points in life. Vulnerability, as we know, is something that everyone experiences, regardless of gender, and it can make us susceptible to influences, whether good or bad. Now, when we look at this through the Stoic perspective, we understand that our emotions are often what lead us into situations that we later regret. Stoicism teaches us to master our emotions, to not be swayed by external events or desires, and to focus on the development of our inner character. A key aspect of Stoic philosophy is the idea of virtue, the belief that living a virtuous life is the only true path to happiness. So, what does that mean in the context of relationships for a married woman? The temptation to stray or get involved in an affair may stem from unmet emotional needs, which is a perfectly human thing to experience. But Stoicism would say that our desires should not control us. Instead, we should focus on developing resilience and strength of character, learning how to find fulfillment in our current relationships and lives, instead of seeking validation outside of them. This is where the practice of self-discipline and emotional control comes into play. Furthermore, the idea of prey in this context isn't about exploitation, but rather about the imbalance of emotional vulnerability. Those who prey on others' vulnerabilities, whether consciously or unconsciously, or simply taking advantage of a situation where someone isn't fully grounded in their values or commitments. Stoicism encourages us to examine our intentions and actions before we act, reminding us that the right path is always one of integrity and virtue. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This speaks volumes in the context of relationships. If someone feels neglected or unsatisfied in their marriage, it's important to recognize that this feeling isn't something to act on impulsively. It's an opportunity for self-reflection. Stoicism teaches us to reflect on our inner emotional state and not to be driven by temporary impulses. Now, what can married women or anyone in a relationship do to protect themselves from becoming easy prey in a figurative sense? First and foremost, it's crucial to understand the value of communication in any relationship. One of the main reasons people feel vulnerable in relationships is due to a lack of communication. Marriage, or any committed partnership, requires constant, open, and honest communication to make sure both partners feel valued, heard, and understood. When these needs are neglected, it's easy for someone to start seeking that validation elsewhere. Another important Stoic principle is the idea of Stoic love, which is based on respect, understanding, and deep affection that is rooted in virtuous living. Stoic love encourages partners to grow together, to work through difficulties together, and to value each other not just for physical attraction but for emotional and intellectual connection. When both partners engage in this type of relationship, they are less likely to fall prey to external temptations or to feel emotionally adrift. Of course, we can't control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond to situations that arise in our relationships. A Stoic would advise anyone in a relationship to take responsibility for their own actions, their own emotional state, and to always strive to act with integrity and self-control. The temptation to stray or to be manipulated doesn't arise from a flaw in the person who is targeted, but from the breakdown of virtues like trust, communication, and respect. It's also essential to acknowledge that while married women may be more emotionally vulnerable at times, it's not just women who experience these vulnerabilities. Men, too, face emotional challenges, especially in long-term relationships. This concept of prey or vulnerability is a human experience that transcends gender. And it's essential to recognize this in order to foster understanding and empathy in relationships. Stoicism teaches us to approach everyone with compassion, and to focus on building relationships based on virtue and mutual respect, rather than manipulation or taking advantage of others. In conclusion, the idea of married women being easy prey is less about them being weak and more about the emotional dynamics of human nature. It's about the vulnerabilities we all face in relationships and how important it is to practice self-awareness, self-control, and open communication. Stoicism teaches us that our reactions to emotions and situations matter more than the circumstances themselves. By applying Stoic principles to our relationships, we can create stronger, more fulfilling partnerships, where both parties can grow together, communicate openly, and stay grounded in their values and virtues. Remember, the journey of living a virtuous life isn't about perfection, it's about constant self-improvement, reflection, and striving to be the best version of ourselves. So, if you're in a committed relationship, take this moment to reflect on the emotional dynamics at play and remember that the greatest strength comes from mastering your own emotions, understanding your own needs, and respecting those of your partner. That's it for today's video. If you found this perspective on Stoicism and relationships helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more content like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic in the comments below. How do you apply Stoic principles to your relationships? Let me know, and I'll catch you in the next video. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, we've been exploring the complex dynamics in relationships and why, at times, married women can be seen as vulnerable or, in some cases, easy prey. But remember, this isn't about casting blame or labeling anyone. It's about understanding human nature, our emotional needs, and how Stoicism can help us navigate the challenges that come with relationships. Now, in the first part, we talked about how emotional vulnerability can play a significant role in why some individuals, married or not, may be more susceptible to outside influences. But let's dig deeper into the philosophy of Stoicism and how it can help us address these vulnerabilities. One of the key tenets of Stoicism is the idea of living according to nature, understanding the world and ourselves, and accepting that things are as they are. Relationships, as part of the human experience, are filled with ups and downs. We face moments of joy, but we also face times of frustration, doubt, and emotional strain. These challenges, however, don't have to dictate the course of our actions. Stoicism teaches us that it's not what happens to us that matters, but how we respond to it. And this response is where strength lies. Let's take a moment to look at the role of self-awareness. A Stoic practices constant self-reflection to examine their own emotions, thoughts, and actions. When we think about relationships, especially marriage, self-awareness is critical. We need to recognize our own emotional triggers, our unmet needs, and the ways in which we might be contributing to the breakdown of communication or connection. Self-awareness allows us to notice when we might be feeling neglected or disconnected, and gives us the opportunity to address those feelings in a healthy, constructive way. It's about checking in with yourself before you act out of impulse or frustration. So, when a married woman feels neglected, emotionally unfulfilled, or even just lonely, it's natural for her to seek attention elsewhere. But what's important is how she chooses to respond to those feelings. Does she address them within her marriage through open communication? Does she channel those feelings in ways that align with her values and the commitment she made? Or does she seek solace in temporary distractions that ultimately lead to regret or pain? This is where Stoicism really provides a tool for us to understand and manage those feelings. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control others, but we can control our own responses. If a married woman, like anyone in a relationship, can master her emotional responses, stay grounded in her commitments, and communicate openly with her partner, she can avoid falling prey to external temptations. It's not about suppressing emotions, but but about understanding them, mastering them, and making choices based on wisdom rather than impulse. Another key idea that Stoicism brings to the table is the notion of memento mori, the reminder of our mortality. This isn't meant to be morbid, but rather, it's a powerful tool for perspective. When we're aware of the fleeting nature of life, it reminds us to make choices based on what truly matters. In the context of relationships, this could mean reflecting on the bigger picture. Instead of getting caught up in temporary desires or emotions, we can choose to nurture the relationships that have the potential to bring long-term fulfillment and happiness. Memento mori can help remind someone in a marriage of the value of their commitment. It brings awareness to the fact that time is precious, and, in the grand scheme of things, the external temptations or distractions that might seem alluring in the moment aren't worth jeopardizing the deeper, more meaningful connections that we've worked hard to cultivate. It encourages us to act with purpose, to align our actions with our values, and to focus on what brings true happiness. In addition to this, Stoicism teaches us the importance of acceptance. Not resignation, but acceptance of what is within our control and what is not. When we understand that we can't change how others behave, how they treat us, or what external temptations might arise, we find peace in knowing that our emotional responses are our own responsibility. It's about accepting the flaws of others and the imperfections of life without letting them define our actions. Instead of focusing on things that are beyond our control, we focus on what we can change: our own behavior, thoughts, and choices. In the context of a marriage, acceptance means recognizing that both partners come with their own set of strengths and weaknesses. There will be challenges, misunderstandings, and moments of disconnection. But it's how we respond to those moments that defines the health of the relationship. Stoicism encourages us to accept these challenges as part of the natural ebb and flow of life and to approach them with grace, wisdom, and self-control. Let's take a moment to explore the importance of integrity. A core principle of Stoicism is the belief that living with integrity, being true to one's word and values, is essential for happiness and fulfillment. Integrity builds trust, and trust is the foundation of any strong relationship. When someone strays or falls into temptation, it often comes from a place of dishonesty there with themselves or their partner. But by practicing integrity and aligning our actions with our values, we build stronger, more resilient relationships that are less susceptible to external distractions or manipulation. When a married woman, or anyone in a committed relationship, practices integrity, they reinforce the foundation of their partnership. They don't seek validation outside the relationship because they've cultivated a sense of self-worth and fulfillment that doesn't rely on external sources. This integrity is the glue that holds relationships together, even in times of uncertainty or temptation. In closing, it's essential to recognize that everyone, married women included, has their own struggles, vulnerabilities, and emotional challenges. It's not about blaming or judging others for their choices, but about understanding human nature and how we can all work to protect our emotional well-being in relationships. Stoicism provides us with the tools to navigate these challenges with wisdom, self-control, and integrity. It reminds us that we are responsible for our own actions and emotions, and that by mastering these, we can build stronger, more fulfilling relationships. I hope this perspective on vulnerability, relationships, and Stoicism has given you some valuable insights. Remember, it's not about perfection, but about continuous growth and striving to be the best version of ourselves in all our relationships. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, leave your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. I love hearing from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.